Hey everybody,
Hi.
we're back by popular demand.
Popular demand.
Our second video in our now Smokey's coming over. Our
Yeah,
cat.
the cat's about to make
Our cat has been crying so much
screenshot.
since our youngest went to school, and it's kind of like he's inconsolable. So trying to keep him happy. So you might hear our cat crying occasionally. Hi, buddy.
He just did. He just said hello.
But we thought we could talk about this episode about, since everyone's going back to school, not everyone, kids are going back to school, whether you've got small kids, big kids, anywhere in between, and how you're feeling about that kind of thing. Because our daughter, we just dropped her off at college a week ago. It's been over a week. Can't believe it.
Yeah, it's been 10 days. Exactly. It was August
The
17th.
longest 10 days are.
Yeah, yeah. But we've only called twice.
We've only called twice. Trying to not call or text all the time, which I'm very proud of us that we've done that.
Well, we texted a few times. Oh, here comes the cat.
Yeah,
Come on over.
on the dining room table.
If you see the camera move, that's the cat nudging it from behind.
Yeah.
Come here.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
Come here.
I wonder if he's going to get in here. Come here, Smokey.
Come here.
He's just
Now
walking
he's,
around the table.
now he's going to walk around behind it. He's good. Yeah, if we're not having an earthquake, that's the cat nudging the back of the computer that we propped up the camera on.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
all.
my glass.
It's a very high tech operation around here.
It is. It's so high tech. But we just wanted to kind of share what our experience was taking your child to school when this pandemic, throughout the whole summer, parents were like, do we send our kids? Do we not? You know, what should we do? Some kids opted just to stay at home since all the classes are online. Our daughter decided no, she was going to stay or go and just experience whatever that was.
Right, and it's interesting because it wasn't entirely clear early on whether or not she goes to the University of Illinois, and it wasn't entirely clear early on whether they were actually going to have people come to campus. But, so all summer long we were getting emails and there were Zoom calls and videos posted
Yeah.
by the university. And full disclosure, I have a good friend who works for the administration, but she and I did not talk about that during the summer. I didn't want
And you
to.
also went to college there, so
I went to college and law school, and my friend who works for the university is a law school classmate. But I didn't want to impose or take advantage of that, so I did not put any pressure on her. But in any event, eventually they made the decision to go back. I can't recall exactly when it was
And
made.
how many students they have? Like 40,000?
There, I believe right now it's about 49,000 somewhere in
Yeah.
there. When I went there in the 80s, it was like 35 to 38, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's a lot bigger school now. And they have 3 campuses. The main campus is in Urbana-Champaign downstate. There's a campus in Chicago and one in Springfield, the state capital. But I went to the main campus. That's where Claire's going. And when they finally made the decision to actually start on campus, it was a little nerve-wracking because at that point there were some stories starting to emerge about some other schools. This is really before any schools were back in their fall semester, but there were situations
Like the
where
athletes?
there were there were football players and other fall sports athletes who were on a lot of college campuses, and some of them were testing positive. And there were schools that had a significant number of kids who stayed the summer. I think
Right.
USC was one school we heard about in Los Angeles. They had some cases there, so it was a little up in the air. But U of I thought. And only time will tell. But I thought they came up with a pretty good approach to it.
I do too.
All of the kids had to get tested before they were able to, check into their own housing. I know that applied to any type of university housing. I don't know whether that applied if they were going into a private apartment.
I kind of think it did too.
I think so, but
Yeah.
I don't recall that. But they had to go to the basketball arena, which is now known as State Farm Center. I am not a fan of corporate sponsorships
So we're calling it.
of football and basketball arenas and that sort of thing. Um, but I call it the assembly hall because that's where it always was. That's what
And that's
it
what
always
people would
was.
know it anyway. They
Yeah.
wouldn't know it's State Farm.
But it's State Farm Center. We'll put up a picture. It's like this 1960s looking spaceship building.
Yeah.
And it's been around since the 60s. Anyway, but they all had to go there and they all had to check in and get tested. And we couldn't go in with her.
Could not.
So we pulled up in front by one of the main entrances. The student met us. Everybody's wearing masks and gloves and the whole thing. She had to put her mask on, took her into the building. We drove around to the other side and waited for her to come out on the other side of the
Right.
spaceship, like Close Encounters. It wasn't quite like that. But but it didn't take that long.
No, like 15 minutes.
And the other thing we skipped over this part is they had to schedule a time to check into their dorm. So they didn't
Right.
just have everyone coming in at the same time. So Claire had a set time on Monday the 17th to check into her dorm. We had to get to the State Farm Center and have her, assembly hall, and have her tested and everything like that. And she got a PPE kit with different
So we got
things
there
in it.
early because we didn't know how long that process was going to take. So it only took 15 minutes. So we had like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah, something
Before
like
she had to check in for her moving in. But her roommate didn't arrive for like 4 days later. So we weren't in a rush. She could do whatever she wanted to. But for parents watching the videos, all the Facebook groups that were formed for U of I parents and her dorm, just the stress of like people have to comply, and if you don't comply, then see ya, kind of thing. So they're not going to let kids just wander around aimlessly doing whatever they want, kind of thing. So we felt pretty good about that.
And they have a pretty rigorous testing program. For one thing, they developed their own test, similar to the one, I think it was Yale University also developed a saliva-based test, so they don't have to do the real intrusive nose thing.
Yeah.
But the University of Illinois developed theirs and got fast-track FDA approval for it. And as I understand it, the turnaround time is very quick for
Very
results.
quick.
She found out, after her first testing, when we arrived on campus, she found out, I think, later the same, or maybe it was the next
I think it was the next morning.
but I've also seen other people commenting on Facebook that sometimes it's as quickly as half an hour.
Yeah.
So they turn around very quickly. Initially, everyone had to be tested minimum of twice a week. You could go anytime you wanted. They had sites set up all over campus, but you had to be tested at least twice a week. And they have an app on their phone, and they have to show the app before they can go into university buildings that confirms.
To prove that they're not
Right.
positive.
I think they've modified the testing regime a little bit. I think we got an email that I think says they have to have a negative test every 4 days. They can go more frequently than that, but minimum, so that if they have a negative test, if they get tested today and it's negative, they have 4 days that they don't have to get tested, and then the app won't let them in after 11:59 p.m. on that
Right.
fourth day. They got to do it again. So, and they have, protocols for quarantining and isolating if they either test positive or if they've been exposed to it. The Champaign-Urbana Public Health Department has a very complicated contact tracing program in place. So if anyone at the university tests positive, the health department contacts them, gets contact tracing information so that they can notify anybody else who might have come in contact with them and so forth. So, it's a pretty decent system. The other things that I think are kind of relevant to the whole story is that the positivity rate in Champaign County
Right.
is very low. It's only like 1%, whereas in Illinois, the objective is to keep it in the neighborhood of 4 to 4.5% as testing ramps up. So it's really low. It's much lower than the nationwide average, and it's considerably lower than the Illinois average. So that's also sort of, gives you a little bit of comfort.
Definitely comfortable.
And also, I think, the public health officials outside the university, but the local public health officials don't want a situation where kids are coming in from places where there's a higher rate of infection,
Right.
and creating a problem for people who live there.
Exactly.
You know, it's not just the students and people affiliated with the university.
Yeah, because it's not the people's fault
Yeah.
that they live there where university is.
So there seems to be a lot of cooperation between the university and the local community, which is also a really good thing. So, I mean, I saw
Yeah,
that.
we just kind of wanted to see what other people's thoughts were.
Right.
If your kids are at school, no matter what age, if they're remote learning and things like that, how are you managing that? Us, we're fortunate because our kids are adults, so we
Yeah.
don't have to deal with like a third grader trying to do math
Right.
and stuff like that. But even so, all summer I was just so nervous because with the disappointment of like not having senior year, having to do remote learning, no prom, no graduation, and anything, and then to
Smoking
also,
and missing out on a class trip to France.
oh yeah, she had a class trip to France
Yeah.
planned for over a year that got canceled. So just one disappointment after another, and it's just like we didn't just want to have one more disappointment kind of thing. So she, and I think all kids her age, if they went to school, they were going to take whatever they could get, and because it was better than being at home in their bedroom.
Right. I mean, she did, like Jennifer said, she had the option to stay home
Mm-hmm.
and do classes remotely. All of her classes actually are remote, so she will not have to be physically in the classroom.
Right.
And also, they're you can hear the cat. He's going up the stairs. He's coming back down the stairs.
Come here, Smokey.
He's clearly out of sorts since
Yeah.
Claire went to school. But they're coming back before Thanksgiving, and then they'll just
For
do
the rest of the
they'll do the last
semester.
part of the semester at home, take finals online and all that. I think they're concerned. A lot of schools are concerned about the possibility of a bad flu season later in the fall into the winter. So a lot of schools are doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't read the whole article. You know, it's in the internet age, you read headlines more than articles, I think. But or the social media age, whatever.
Right.
But there was an article in the Chicago Sun-Times that basically said that, you know, if the University of Illinois approach doesn't work, then no school's approach is going to work
I
because
saw that
it's
too,
really
yeah.
one of the most. And I'm sure I'm not putting down other schools. I'm sure other schools have, you know, done similar things or come up with other pretty rigorous approaches to it.
But it was good to hear that
Yeah.
they were taking it so seriously.
Right.
And even like was it the chancellor who got choked up in that
Yes.
video? So we were at a parents' meeting, and at the very end, the chancellor said, you know, these are your kids. We will take care of your kids. And he was like getting misty eyed about
Yeah.
it. You know, he was just like, just know that we are going to take care of your children, you know, kind of thing. So I was just like, I almost got teary eyed. I was like, thank you so much.
You
I
did
almost
just
did
now.
that.
That's
I
okay.
couldn't cry at anything. So.
Well, it's funny. You know, I was talking to some people at work, and I was like, you know, when our oldest went away to college, you know, the initial focus, because it's kind of like all of the practical stuff, you know, like where's she going to live and how to pay for things and all that sort of thing.
Right.
I wasn't kind of grasping the emotional gravity of it. And then we get to the apartment that she was moving into, and we get all this stuff, and we, you know, all of a sudden it's late, it's getting dark, we're ready to go home, and I'm like, oh my God, it didn't occur to me what that emotional thing was going to be. So that was kind of overwhelming. But now with our youngest, it's like, well, we see it, we knew it was coming. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know which is better or worse, but we knew it was going to be this big emotional situation. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Especially like we've not been apart away from our kids for any great length of time. So just having them gone for a month or two at a time is
Right.
just kind of weird. There's like an emptiness
Yeah.
for sure.
And we don't know because of, you know, the situation. I mean, there are buses and trains that come back and forth all the time, but do you want your kid sitting on a train for a couple of hours, you know, in
We'll pretty much pick her
October or
up.
whatever? We did tell her in November when she's ready to come home, we're going to drive down and get her rather than make her
Right.
take the train back. But in between, you know, it's not the same flexibility as it used to be. I remember, you know, Champagne's about 2.5 hours away, depending on the traffic and so forth. I remember we came back, you know, if you had a friend who had a car, it wasn't uncommon to get a ride
Yeah,
back.
because I mean, just a couple hours there and back
Yeah.
is not you could do that on
Right.
a weekend and not be like miss out on a bunch of stuff.
But,
So leave us a comment if
Yeah.
how you guys are dealing with everything, and we have we're getting a little editorial calendar together of ideas of things that we're going to discuss,
Yeah.
hot topics and things like that. So
Hot topics.
yeah.
Airing of grievances.
Yeah.